look at the camera.
Huh?
I'll let you know when people start filing in.
So you're gonna
Because
want
you had about 70, okay,
Yeah.
you had about 74 people
Oh, cool.
when we turned off. So, Jeffrey March,
Yeah.
some customers I recognize. How can I make this lathe at home?
What's that?
How can I make this lathe at home? Someone asked.
You need a couple tools and some wood.
Buy the book in 2 years?
Yeah. I keep talking about it. The book is almost done. Just kind of doing the final rough draft stuff. The plans the plans have already been drafted, but they're not available just yet. I hope I can get those out, maybe before the book comes out. But all right, so there's this lump here, this hollow spot that hasn't been turned. So I need to think about how much further down I need to turn this to get rid of that, or the shape of the bowl that I want to turn. I believe that the best bowls come from good design, and that's very thoughtful, based on experience, and experience could be just looking at bowls, it doesn't have to be turning. And so I tend to I don't limit myself on what I'm going to make by this shape that I have here. I've taken all the rough marks out, mostly. I don't want to just settle with a bowl that fits this shape, because it may not be nice. This is a random piece of wood, random axe marks, random turning to get those parts down. So now I want to consider what's possible. And I'll go with an open bowl because I'm going to do a little nesting. And so then I need to decide on the height and the base, the distance between the two, the size of the base, the size of the bowl diameter at the rim, and go from there. So I also have a little bit of an inconsistency along this surface, the rim. So one of the things that I learned from Robin years ago was you can flip your regular hook upside down a little bit. And this is why the tip down analogy doesn't work, because regular hooks can be used tip down. That's why the reverse grind is a better describer of that other hook. So I'm going to flip this over, not quite upside down, and then I'm going to pivot toward the rim. And this way I can turn that rim down, the uneven surface. How many more people came back?
70 so
Nice.
far.
Nice.
Mary's excited about the nesting.
So you can see this area after I turn down the low spot, which is right about here. There's a lot of material. And so when I design the bowl, if I were to make decisions without doing this first, my bowl design would have to change plans as soon as I got to the rim. So I definitely look to limit all the variation as I go before I design. Be careful with this technique, because you can break your hook really easy if you have it opened up too much.
Ost Handmade was wondering if you thought about using a bench like the Serbian turners do?
I used to have a sitting platform, but I struggled with getting the power I needed. So I just stand.
Okay, so now I should go over
I
here.
established the height or the max diameter. There's a couple little voids here, but I think I'm going to take that away eventually. So that's my new height that I have, and you can see the difference there. So then I'm going to cut in the base, and then I'm going to shape it. And if you can't see my hook, you can always look to the other side and just see the.
We can see it. This is a good
see what I'm
spot, I
doing.
think.
All right, so I flattened this out a little bit, and I guess I have an idea of how my foot is going to be. I'm going to sharpen up a different hook here for it. So if you can see that the foot looks best if it goes straight in or even dives. So I need to get just the right cut. Sometimes the best hook is one that is not tapered. I have some new hooks here that I've been wanting to try. So
Jay Kettner wants to buy your bowl.
can you move the drum?
Do you need some water?
No, I'll be right back. I gotta get the drum.
You going high tech? I think, Jay, the somebody already requested the bowl, but
Oh,
you might be able to special order.
I might make another pole lathe bowl. This is a great tool for sharpening hooks. You know, the compromise in our modern lives with a tool a machine that's 3,000 years old is that it's a little bit strange to be turning on a pole lathe, but yet using a smartphone to record it. And so I don't get too caught up on all those weird, strong ideals these days. Maybe when I was younger I did. But I like the texture. I like the process. I'm sure that's what a lot of people are doing this. It's slow. It's safe. It gives you an opportunity to really think about things as you go. But for sharpening, this little Dremel is really the bee's knees.
I don't think I can get it.
And I don't use it all the time. I just use it to get started, or if I need to reshape. But we shouldn't just kind of cast out the idea without trying it. So it's finish cuts. I want to go really slow with the pivot. Smells interesting, this wood.
Looks like Jake Hetner asked, it looks like you use one handle and swap out the hooks.
Not really, Jay. I just have a bunch of new hooks here, and there was a hook that I don't use anymore, so I just swapped it out. I usually have, you can show a picture. There's all of these. I just kind of retired one.
And what kind of tip did you have in your Dremel tool? Is it the chainsaw one?
Well, it's a little cone. There, yeah, the chainsaw one I've used too, but this one is another hook. See if I just wanted to see if that was a good one. Some of these I haven't used yet, so I'm not gonna screw around with them right now. I'm gonna slow it down here and cut in this foot. I use 3 to 5 hooks when I'm turning.
Do you work your hook tool edges to as keen an edge as you would for a hook knife or spindle lathe?
As sharp as, what was the question? As sharp as a tool on a spindle lathe?
Mm-hmm. Or a hook knife.
Yeah, as sharp as a hook knife. Maybe not quite as polished of an edge, but they're sharp. That makes sense. They have to be sharp. Yeah, and always sharpen with your hook on your lathe so that it's stable. So there's a burr. Take the burr off. Just want a little bit of a smoother area in here. That other hook I sharpened wasn't quite ready. It was a little aggressive. And notice with the finish cuts, I'm changing my pivot location frequently.
Robert Purtle's saying hi. How are you doing?
Who?
Rob.
All right, Robert. So that's pretty good. Simple open form. I'm not a super fan of that foot area, so I got a secret weapon here, which is just a little bit of it's just a scraper. Gently. And I'm actually using it with the bungee making the cut. So I'm putting it in and then letting the spring make the cut instead of my downward pressure. So there's a little bit more subtle control with that tool. Now I'll use downward pressure. But scrapers and green wood don't really work very well. So it's just that little area, transition area, that I was trying to fix up.
Does your scraper have a burr?
Yes. But like I said, it doesn't really do a good job on green wood. It's just to get that transition tight. It's not bad. All right, I'm going to flip it around. I think we're just 15 minutes in, so we got
17 minutes,
time, yeah.
to be precise.
You notice my wedge isn't working much anymore.
Yeah, it looks all mashed up.
I've had this wedge for maybe 8 years, and it's taken a lot of abuse. All right, inside. First I'm going to level off the top. Inside's a lot better because the bowl has been shifted to my left, and so now I have better access than over here. You're kind of leaned over a little bit. Closer, Jasmine. Maybe you can hold the camera.
Okay. Where do you want it?
Get the camera over here. I can.
Here. Can you see where you want it?
Right there.
There?
Yep.
Okay. Got some questions also.
Yeah, and I just want to show everybody the approach on doing the rim. The angle of the tool, vertical, it would be safe here in this position. Fully to the right, 90 degrees is a full grab. So I'm going to be about 10 degrees from vertical. And again, vertical meaning only in this with this hook with the tool level with the center. I could be down here, and then I would have to turn the hook a little bit more. But this is the same cut as this. Okay. So I'm just going to people have a hard time with the rims. So you want that blade, that edge, just a little bit off of parallel to the arc. Okay, that's enough for now.
You want to see what these questions are here? Ever use a jam chuck on the pole lathe?
Doesn't work, no need.
Do you ever turn spindles on this lathe, or is the design specific to bowls and cups?
It's a bowl lathe. Spindle lathes, the poppets or headstock, tailstock are further apart. Tool rest is parallel. And the pedal usually extends above the lathe, so you can get a longer throw with the foot pedal. Here I need the power. The extra throw doesn't do much, and so bowl and cup. And no need for jam chucks. There's just no need.
Does the diameter of the hook and its width vary the quality of the finish?
The diameter does. It's the same with the gouges, but opposite. The tighter the hook, the better the finish. Not the bigger, shallower, because the resistance that they cause when you're making the cut. And the shape, of course, definitely does. But that can be accommodated by just turning your wrist so you can get the sweet spot. So I got a little lid here for my tea so it doesn't get full of shavings. I'm gonna start shoving this reverse grind hook into the bowl. And with nesting, you're not going to be able to see anything because it's all going to be hidden. But I'll take the tool out and I'll talk a little bit about it. But again, I'm setting up for a pivot that goes into the wood this time, and just on the core. So when you're hollowing, there's two ways you have to look at it. That's precarious.
Can you help me?
I don't know if I can.
Let me think this angle through.
There. Okay. So when you're hollowing, there's the core side and then there's the bowl side. And the sweet cutting position on each are opposite. So what works on the core won't really work on the bowl side. And what works on the bowl will actually catch on the core side. And so going in, it's the hardest part of learning how to do this, is you have to plunge your tool in. You'll have to scrape a little bit. And it's where the inside of the core and the inside of the bowl, and where they meet. And so you're better off working the core side and scraping and pushing the tool onto the bowl side to go deeper. If you're on the bowl side, your hook is approaching the core on a full grab, and so you're not going to be able to go any deeper. Your tool will just catch and create a hole, and there'll be problems. So go deeper on the core side, and then finish smoothing on the bowl side. Deeper, finish, deeper, finish. If you have a reverse grind hook, you can skew the core by slicing like that, and you can smooth it up and shape it. But when you're nesting, the hook has to be, it's not a reverse grind, it's like this. And so you're cutting on the bowl here, and you're cutting on the core here. And it takes a lot of skill and a lot of tool control, because as you practice going deeper, if you try to go deeper on the core, you're going to catch. And to be able to nest, you're actually turning with the tool just before it catches, is kind of the sweet spot. So you have to have a lot of tool control, and you have to have good hooks that are sharp and just the right shape. So I'm going to plunge this in a little deeper. on the core side. Now I'm on the bowl side. Core side. Bowl side. Core side. They're both different positions, both different pivots. I left myself a lot of material there. Now I'm going to hollow on the bowl side. So I can set this pivot position up to get the whole thing. So you can see that it wants to grab. As soon as I touch the core, it grabs. So you don't want to go deeper on the core side. You want to scrape and go deeper on the bowl side, depending on your hook. This hook doesn't have much taper, so it's not going to grab as much as a tapered hook on the core. So I'm going to tip it away from the core, and I can go a little deeper without it catching. I have to be careful not to grab, so I have to stop right before the bottom. Then turn the hook to the core cutting position. So you got to know where your catching is going to happen. So it's a little thick. Stop before it grabs. All right, so working on the rim, I'm going to make my finish cuts. I'm going to slope it down a little bit, and then I'm going to do the finish intersection of rim and inside. Being very careful where I put that hook. And you can see how stable I am. I'm not making a cut. I'm standing on one leg and pumping, not cutting. You're going to need to develop that level of control. There we go. Nice crisp outside. And now the inside edge. If you can visualize the way the wood fiber is on this bowl, if I put my tool right here, I'm going to catch. There's no way around it. I have to put that edge parallel to that point, which is way down here. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And then make my pivot cut into the bowl. This way, there's no way that my tool can catch because it's parallel to that point or that arc, which is the rim and inner bowl intersection. So I'm going to find the sweet spot, get the edge working, and then I'm going to turn the hook in and pivot. pretty crisp. I can do better. So now diving in on the core. That reverse grind hook will go great. I can plunge in and I'm skewing on the core. Remember, the core is basically like a bowl and we're carving from the rim to the base. We're going backward. So everything is against us. So skewing that tool or having this reverse grind, it allows a skew to happen. I also have a new tool that I made that, if you can see it, it actually flares up from this point where my finger's touching it, flares up bigger. So it's tapered in the opposite way of normal, which will also help prevent it from catching on the core. I'm excited to try this. It's just not sharp. So I'm going in, and then I'm clearing the way a little. Going in, clearing the way.
Sorry, I just can't get the tool now.
Yeah, you can't
Too
see.
deep.
You can't see the tool.
Yeah.
But you can see the trough.
Yeah.
You know, if you film here, people can see what I'm doing by looking at the cut.
Do all of your reverse grind tools have a bend in the shaft?
The ones I have currently, yes, but they're not limited to that. I don't turn as much on this lathe as I used to. So when I was doing a lot of hollow forms, I had all kinds of crazy shape tools, locking lidded boxes and things. So now I'm doing the finish cuts on the inside of the wall down to the bottom of the trough. I gotta stop right before it catches. Okay, now I got some nesting hooks here. So these tools are bevel, a normal bevel, and they're set up to plunge in and to carve that curve. So I'm going to be scraping a lot on the core side, which will be here, to tip the tool down and then pivot it in and then open it up, push, and then clear the bowl, pivot in, tipping the tool so it doesn't catch. Now this is where I'm actually sliding the tool a little bit. I'm tipping the tool, I'm plunging in on a pivot, and then I slide the tool back out a little bit. So you can practice this with an untapered hook on your core, and maybe you can catch this, Jasmine. You see?
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to turn my hook and then I'm going to plunge in. So it's kind of a scrape. The more you turn it away from the core, the smoother it gets, the less it cuts. The more you open it, the more it grabs. So you can see that groove that I cut in there. That's how you practice nesting. Oh. You can hear it grabbing a little bit if I push it too hard. So I got a slot going in there. It's almost 3/4 of an inch deep now in there. I maybe went in a little bit too tight than normal, but a little bit out of practice. Now I'm working on the inside of the bowl. So there it wants to catch. That's the limit. So I have to lighten up my cut. Not push so hard. Doing the finished cuts. How much time?
We've had 37 minutes so far,
Okay.
so 20 minutes left. Gonna pick up this oil I dropped here.
Yeah, unfortunately you guys can't really see what's going on anymore.
Yeah.
It's because of nesting. But it's the way it goes. So it's quite thick yet. So I'm going to work on cutting the inside. So I'm going to just pivot from down low, pivot up into that slot, and get the inside of the bowl finished. First learning to nest, the mistake is to go too deep before you start to turn. So you're better off coming right away and not getting your core, but at least you get one bowl out of it. Instead of going through the bottom of your first bowl, then it's not as good as it. good thickness, I think. And when you're practicing too, don't make the slot so small that you can't feel. You know, you want to be able to get regular hooks in there too. I undercut the core a little bit more than I should have, but it's okay. So now I'm working on that base of the intersection, and you have to use the hook to kind of feel what's going on in there. And now this is where you need to really hold your tool steady underneath your arm too. If you have cracked handles, that can make a difference of good cuts and bad cuts. Any little flex. I really can't see. So if you're a turner, watch my hand and you'll see what's going on. Normal, core. And when I'm turning this way, I usually pull a little bit and then I push. But it varies. Still a little thick on the bottom, so I'm gonna almost got it. There's a little hard spot in here that I think I should get rid of. Not going to be my best nest, but oh well. So then to tell how big that is, you know, you want to kind of mark it. You can always kind of tweak it a little bit to see if it bends. And this tool is a little bit dull on this side. But the hook is so small. Sometimes I have Swiss files. It's really fine. But they break really easy. No, I don't think they're that expensive, that cheap either. So, all right, that's better. Probably break it off right now, but I'm going to go a little bit finer. And I'll do one more finished pass on the inside of the bowl.
When you were at full production on a pole lathe, how many bowls would you turn in a week?
30 to 40. Sometimes 20. Not all the time. I mean, it wasn't steady, but I would say 20 to 40 is normal, average. I mean, and the beauty of the nesting is that you kind of get two bowls for your time. So once you can do this, you can make a lot more bowls with almost the same amount of effort. Remember, you're turning all of this away if you can't nest. So, which is bad. I learned right away. You know, whenever I began, I was always trying to undercut. So you can see here where I dove in too quick, but then I corrected. So I can turn that into a small little bowl though. It's not going to be a big problem. I'm going to have to take the mandrel off and put a smaller mandrel on, but there's the bowl. So not so bad. You know, I haven't done this in a year, so it's okay. But my tool is a little dull on the tip, and just getting this nice shape. This area here is a little bit harder when you can't see it, but not so bad. Thickness is pretty good. Should I cut it in half?
No.
No. I want to see. All right, the last bit is to take this nub down. So the grain is running this way, so I'm going to come cross grain with my hook. Make sure that it's as deep as I think it is. And you know, I can clean up that bottom area too a little bit. It doesn't matter to me. You know, if it's carved or turned, just as long as the shape is nice. So that's totally acceptable for a pole lathe turn bowl. And if I was in practice, that little bump there would have been taken care of. If anybody has any of my old work and it's a bowl this size or bigger, it was a nest. And then take the axe, side grain.
You're welcome. Everybody's saying thank you.
Yeah, I wish the nesting thing could be better shown. But maybe y'all can take classes with me sometime if we ever cross paths.
When are you teaching pole lathe turning classes?
Hopefully in November at North House. Build your lathe, forge hooks, and turn. You know, and again, November's a long ways away right now. And then next year, I think we're scheduling another class like that at Pacific, Port Townsend School of Woodworking. So there it is. And I'll get to turn that little bowl. We're not going to do another video, but I'll turn it up with a smaller mandrel. And I'll post a picture of it a little bit later. Maybe Jay, you want that one? You can have that one. All right, see ya.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks a lot. See ya.